All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Upper Hand Fantasy Podcast. My name is Faraz and Zach. I'm here with Zach Rizzuto. We're going to go over some week 2 buys and sells. Uh, you know, we're all getting the trade itch. People trying to trade, before week 1 after they drafted. I don't know what was going on there, but it happens. Everyone got the trade itch, and we only have until week 11 or week 12 before we're not allowed to make any trades before that trade deadline. So we're going to try to improve our teams. Listen, first of all, I just want to say this. Don't overreact to week 1. Like, there's certain signs that you look for. There's certain things that you look for, like really promising signs, but just understand this is a 1-week sample size. So, any trade you make, any usage that you see, you hope that it continues if you liked what you saw, but just keep in mind that any trade you make after week 1 is likely a little risky. Okay.
Yeah.
You're kind of shooting for the moon when you trade after week 1. All right. So just keep that in mind. All right. Now, there are a bunch of things that I've seen in week 1 that I'm like, you know what? If that continues, I want that on my team. But there's no guarantee that it does continue, right? So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about a bunch of guys. Now, I did put out an Instagram post earlier today, mentioning a bunch of guys, but we're going to talk about, a lot of players that we're thinking about buying, we're thinking about selling. There isn't a whole lot of news, that we need to kind of cover. I wouldn't expect Keenan Allen to play this week. He's playing, the Chargers are playing on Thursday. Don't expect Keenan Allen to be in the lineup. He didn't practice on Tuesday. The only guy, Mike Williams, he had a very bad day without Keenan Allen for most of the day. I would still start Mike Williams as a wide receiver too this week. We know what his ceiling is. Put him in your lineup. I think he should be fine. Josh Palmer is an upside flex play, I think. Gerald Everett, somebody that a lot of people might have picked up off of waivers last night. I think you can put him in your lineup as well. And is there anybody else that you think will benefit from Keenan Allen not playing?
I think that about covers it. I don't think it's going to go that deep, past maybe Josh Palmer. I think Gerald Everett is above Josh Palmer when it comes to Keenan Allen being out. But outside of that, no. Like DeAndre Carter, he might have a similar type of performance as he did last week, but nothing that's going to be like you have to start him over somebody else. You probably have plenty of other players, that you can start. That would be just as good, if not better.
Yeah, exactly. Now we have a bunch of people here in the live, and we're already getting some trade questions. So before we get into our tradeaways and trade fours, let's look at a couple of questions. Okay, Marco here is asking, would you look to sell Michael Thomas? Now, Michael Thomas is not on our list to trade away. He did score 2 touchdowns, right? So this might look like an opportunity to sell high. However, he only played 1 less snap. Actually, no, he ran the same number of routes as Jarvis Landry in this game. There were some reports coming into the game that he might be limited, but he wasn't. He did come off the field a little bit when they were running the ball, but he basically dropped back as many times as any other wide receiver on the Saints. So we're looking at a situation where Michael Thomas might be back. And he is, you already kind of know, unless he gets hurt again, you already kind of know that he has already surpassed his draft capital. Where you drafted him 6th, 7th round, he's already surpassed that at this point.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, as long as he stays healthy, Michael Thomas, I think that, he's back. If this was them, the report came out, I don't know, I'm sure a bunch of you saw it, where it was like, Michael Thomas might be on a snap count 20, 30 snaps this game. And then he didn't, he ran a bunch of routes just as much as any other Saints receiver. He looked good. He looked very close. I don't want to say to what he was in 2019. Obviously it was a 2 touchdown performance on 5 catches. It was good. But I think Michael Thomas showed you what you wanted to see if you're a Michael Thomas owner. And there's no reason to go try and sell him now because he just turned in a good week for you, and he should continue to do that. Because Jameis Winston obviously has connection with him, and he ran just as many routes. It's not like he's being underutilized. This is what you drafted Michael Thomas for, and you got it. So there's no reason to now think, okay, I'll sell that high. No, you can benefit from this every week. The benefit, you will get this type of production every week as long as he's healthy. You can bet on that, and he's a really safe, wide receiver 2. Definitely can be wide receiver 1 if things keep going his way. So there's no reason to sell in my mind, Michael Thomas. I'd keep him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Looking to see if there's any other trade questions here in the comments. Seth, thanks for joining. What's going on? And Marco, just wanted to let you know we appreciate the questions. Let's see. I see one other question from Patrick here. Would you trade Higgins or Judy for Aaron Jones? This is an interesting question. Now, this is gonna prelude me from talking about Aaron Jones here because prelude, is that a word? Because I do think that Aaron Jones is a buy. Coming off of week one,
Mhm.
it wasn't great to see, Aaron Jones only getting, I think it was only 10 opportunities, total opportunities in that game. And then
Right.
AJ Dillon getting close. I think he got 14 or 15 opportunities, himself. So, it wasn't great. It didn't look good for Aaron Jones. However, when you kind of look deeper into it, Aaron Jones, I think he ran a route on like close to 70% of dropbacks or 65% of dropbacks. Let me check on that real quick. Aaron Jones, let's see. I'm looking here. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the wrong thing. Here we go. Aaron Jones ran around 67% of dropbacks compared to 37% for AJ Dillon. That is a number that is indicative of some serious PPR potential. Okay. It
Yeah.
didn't work out this week, but as long as Aaron Jones is getting, he also got like, he was on the field for 61% of snaps. He ended up getting 5 carries to Dillon's 10, right? So, he still got, 33% of the rushing attempts. So, as long as he gets like 40% of the rushing attempts and around 65% of those pass routes, I think he's going to be just fine. So,
Yeah.
if I need a running back, a high-end running back, and by the way, the guys who have done that in the past, they finish as an RB1. So Aaron Jones, I'm not too worried about him right now. If you have Judy, I would trade Judy for sure for Aaron Jones 1-for-1. I would definitely do that. T. Higgins, that is a lot closer. I think Higgins can finish, on a per game basis at this point because he already missed week 1. He might miss week 2, so he might not finish as a wide receiver 12 or higher. But I do like Higgins more. So if you have Judy and you can pull it off for Aaron Jones this week, I would do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. The Packers offense, and you can say it's about a lot of teams, was way out of sorts. It's not going to be like that every week. Aaron Rodgers, he has to have time to mesh with his receivers. It'll be much more dynamic. Aaron Jones won't be, cut out of the game plan. They're going to use him. Once we start seeing the Packers offense gel a little bit and they start putting up some points, it'll be right back to what we expected Aaron Jones to be alongside AJ Dillon. I'd target Aaron Jones, especially if you get him for Judy. I think Judy overproduced by
Yeah, and
what I saw.
And that's the point, right? Like now you can buy Aaron Jones a lot cheaper than his second round price tag, right? His
Right.
early second round price tag. Like, if you didn't want to pay that, now you have an opportunity after week 1, after what appears to be an AJ Dillon led backfield, not so much in the pass game. Okay. And why were we drafting Aaron Jones in the second round? Why was that his ADP? It's because of what we thought, or what a lot of people thought, what the market thought his usage was going to look like in the pass game. And even though he didn't kill it in the pass game, this is now an opportunity because he did run a route on 65% of dropbacks. That is a great number, and I'm hoping that continues. So yes, I am buying low on Aaron Jones for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question. It kind of, we were going to talk about Aaron Jones anyway, so that worked out. Zach, this is for you, man.
Yeah.
The resident Cowboys fan here, and I listen. I vouch for Zach. Okay, he's not going to give you a Cowboy fan perspective here. Okay, objective.
Yeah. And this,
right,
yeah,
Zach?
it's fully objective. And this is me just weighing, the panic that's really surrounding all of the Cowboys offense right now. And you
So
look at,
I just want to shout out Seth though. Seth Curry's in the building. the real Seth Curry. Thoughts. He's asking thoughts on CeeDee Lamb with Dak out, and this is going to kind of, lead into whether we should be buying or selling CeeDee.
right. So, you're talking about the panic that's going around with the Cowboys, with Dak Prescott being out. The report initially for Dak Prescott was that it was 6 to 8 weeks. But now, Jerry Jones, he's trying to, I think, bolster some hopes for the Cowboys fans and for just people in general that, Dak will be back sooner than later. If Dak is back sooner than later, this is CeeDee Lamb. He's a wide receiver one on the offense. He doesn't have much competition. He had 11 targets, which clearly Dak wants to throw to him because he's really the only one there. If somebody has CeeDee Lamb and they're panicking, they're like, uh-oh, I drafted CeeDee Lamb super high, and now, I have to salvage what I can. Maybe I can get someone else for him and just flip this and just take my hands off CeeDee Lamb. I would consider buying. I think this is a really unique situation, a really unique buying situation because, obviously the connotation right now is that CeeDee Lamb isn't going to be good. The separation wasn't awesome. Obviously, when he's running routes, it was a completely off night for the Cowboys, but Dak Prescott looked off. The offensive line is a little banged up now. In that time before Dak comes back, it might be rough riding for CeeDee Lamb. But say Dak comes back and looks like the Dak Prescott that we've seen for fantasy before, that can support multiple fantasy wide receivers. You can get CeeDee Lamb at a really cheap price right now because, I think this is arguably the lowest it's going to be this season. Because if CeeDee Lamb turns around and has a decent day with Cooper Rush, then it can be like, okay, well, maybe CeeDee Lamb could be a serviceable wide receiver too. And then Dak comes back, he'll be back to wide receiver one status, and we could see that happen. It's obviously a bet on upside and what could be. But if Dak shows up sooner rather than later, which it seems to be trending that way from the 6 to 8 week diagnosis before, CeeDee Lamb could be a huge value if you could buy him right now.
Cooper Rush played a full game last year with Amari Cooper, with CeeDee Lamb. Do you remember their stat lines off the top of your head?
I remember. I think it was 7 catches for like $114. Is that what it was?
They both did very well in that game.
Yeah.
With Cooper Rush at quarterback. Amari Cooper, 13 targets, 8 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 8 targets, 6 catches, 112 yards. So he was able to make both guys look pretty good.
Relevant. Yeah.
Against Minnesota last year. So this might not be as bad as we think. Obviously those guys were taking a lot of coverage away from each other, right? And the hope is that CeeDee Lamb, as the alpha, can do his thing, separate, and get the ball. And Cooper Rush might end up hyper targeting him, right? I hyper targeted Amari last year in that game. He might do the same for CeeDee Lamb. I know there's a lot of panic around him because he didn't have a good week one. He had a terrible week one. The whole Dallas offense did. Dak is out. You're right. I think this might be a situation you go and buy CeeDee Lamb, who, in a lot of leagues was being drafted over Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
At this point, you want to try to think with Aaron Jones. You want to try to take advantage of the fact that, you didn't have to pay that price, obviously, because you don't have him on your team. But now you can probably buy him with a player who you drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Yeah. Maybe a combination of players that you drafted in the 6th, 7th round. That's possible, right? Yeah. So that's what I would do. I would try to do 2 for 1, see what the CeeDee Lamb, manager needs, and shoot your shot.
Also worth noting, you could look at it and be like, okay, CeeDee Lamb, it was bad target quality because, he's the only target. They're going to double, triple team him. Michael Gallup has a chance to play this week. And that would offer a lot of help for opening up the Cowboys offense and getting those doubles and triple teams off of CeeDee Lamb and getting him more looks, more high quality looks. So definitely something to monitor. I'd look and see if Michael Gallup is playing. That's only going to help CeeDee Lamb.
I'm with you on that one. I love these questions, guys. Zones XF coming in because it's hitting on a lot of the players that we wanted to talk about. Zones XF is asking, should I try and trade David Montgomery for Damien Pierce in a package deal? Now, let me just hit on Damien Pierce real quick. Damien Pierce, I do want to buy Damien Pierce right now. Mm-hmm. He's going to be cheap, right? And you, if you're going to buy Damien Pierce, you have to be patient. Obviously, with Montgomery, you can start him now, right, and get RB2 type of production out of David Montgomery, maybe mid to low end RB2 production right now.
Right.
Damien Pierce, you can't start right now. Damien Pierce is more like if you're trying to buy a, dare I say, league winner, but you have to be patient, potential league winner, I would make this trade, assuming that you have a bunch of running back depth. Listen, you can't plug Damien Pierce in right now and get RB2 production. You might not even be able to get flex value for Damien, if you put Damien Pierce in your lineup. You're going to have to be patient. Rex Burkhead, he's 32 years old. He's always had a hard time staying healthy. with volume now, which is what Rex Burkhead's getting. He's playing 70% of snaps. Will he hold up? Right, that's the question. And it's going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not going to say anyone's going to get hurt, but if it ends up happening, it's going to change like that. Right, this backfield is going to completely flip to Damien Pierce. He has 3 down potential. He has every down potential, and we saw how good he was in the preseason. We've been loving Damien Pierce before he came into the league as an underrated running back in Dynasty as well. So Damien Pierce is somebody that you could buy. This particular deal is like, you're trading a guy who you can start every week as an RB2 versus a guy who you have to wait on, who could potentially have much higher upside than David Montgomery.
Right. So for me, if I'm like you said, if you have good quality RB depth already, David Montgomery's kind of on the tail end of that, maybe I consider doing that.
And by the way, you said package deal here, Zones. So I'm assuming that you'll be able to get a little bit more,
right?
With Damien Pierce, right? Like, you shouldn't have to give up Montgomery 1-for-1 with Damien Pierce, because Montgomery got legit volume this past week, even though there's some question marks around him and Khalil Herbert kind of inching his way towards a role in this backfield. You should not have to give up Montgomery 1-for-1 for Damien Pierce. You should be able to get a little bit back as well, which is great if you can do it.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to kind of hit on. I was trending that way. I was going to say, like, I wouldn't do, Montgomery for Damien Pierce if there's not much else. If he's just throwing in like a Josh Palmer, a guy picked up on the waivers and he's going to throw that in as just like something to sweeten, quote unquote, the deal, I wouldn't do that. But Montgomery right now, like you said, I think you hit it on the head. He's startable now. Damien Pierce isn't, but Damien Pierce has the higher upside. If you can make it worth it with the package deal, then yeah, definitely. I think that's a good trade.
I got another question here from Marco. I also moved Damien Harris for Breece Hall to a panicking manager. So I'm assuming he got Breece Hall and he was able to trade away Damien Harris, which is awesome, I think. I would have done this deal easily. This is crazy. Damien Harris was drafted where? Breece Hall was drafted where in your fantasy drafts? After 1 week, you can't be panicking like this. Breece Hall, he had 10 targets. What do you have? 10, 11 targets in week 1? He was the primary 2-minute back in this offense. So he's already like inching his way to a 3-down role here, right? Mm-hmm. He already has a 3-down role. It's just that Michael Carter has a better 3-down role than him right now. Michael Carter had the goal line snaps. Breece Hall is like a goal line monster, right? Like he scored a lot of touchdowns in college. Like it's not going to continue to be Michael Carter, who's an undersized back. It's going to be Breece Hall at some point. So this is somebody that I am also looking to trade for. Okay. Right. He's a guy that like could also be a potential league winner later down the line. I do expect, I don't want to start Breece Hall. Like he's a PPR flex play with Joe Flacco at the helm because he's peppering his running backs with volume. I think they accounted for like 34% of his targets. So I'm okay grabbing Breece Hall here because Damien Harris, like, would you be comfortable starting him as a PPR flex right now? Maybe. No. What's funny about Damien Harris? He ran more routes than Ramondre Stevenson. Ty Montgomery was just placed on IR yesterday. So Ramondre Stevenson can potentially have a much bigger role, in the pass game, but we'll see. Damien Harris ran more routes than Ramondre Stevenson in this game. So I'm very curious to see what happens in week 2. Who plays that role on third downs? Because they had like 10 or so, 11 third downs, and Ty Montgomery played, I think, 8 of them. Something like that. So we'll see what happens in this game. But either way, that's going to be a very important role. And one of these running backs is going to have an increase in value, and I'm assuming it's going to be Ramondre.
Yeah, and I think that trade, just kind of capped that off. Steal, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a steal. It's a steal for sure. I mean, I'm surprised if I was giving up Breece Hall, I would ask for more in return. But I mean, you kind of knew this going into the season, right? Like if you're I mean, it depends when you drafted Breece, honestly. Like if you drafted him in June, July, maybe even early August, you might think that Breece Hall was just like the guy, right? Like we thought that could happen as well. But as August went on, you kind of realized like, well, it's not realistic to think that Breece Hall was going to get an every down workload off the bat, considering how these guys were used in camp and in preseason.
Right.
I got another question here. I got offered Christian McCaffrey for Diggs. Straight up. I'd be getting Christian McCaffrey. should I accept?
That
What you doing,
is a
Zach?
really tough one. It depends on what the rest of your roster looks like. That's the problem with these questions. People ask Diggs for CMC straight up, and it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, but it depends on what the rest of your roster looks like. In a vacuum, I'm going for positional value. There's a lot of receivers that you can start and not a lot of CMCs. CMC had a sort of slow opener. He did score a touchdown, which was good, but I think that, as they get in his offense a little bit more, he's going to be back to his old self. I think I would maybe pull the trigger on that if you're getting CMC. I think that would be something that you could do because we know what CMC is. If he's healthy and he plays, I think you're going to have a lot easier time trying to replace Stephon Diggs than you're going to have trying to replace Christian McCaffrey. So I'll go with Christian McCaffrey.
I agree with you. I mean, McCaffrey, he only had 16 opportunities in this game, which is I think his lowest for a couple years now, but played 81% of snaps. He ran around on 73% of dropbacks, which is absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, 23% target share still. So they didn't throw the ball a ton in this game. With more volume in the pass game moving forward, Christian McCaffrey is going to get his, no doubt about it. I'm taking CMC here after Diggs' big game. Take advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take advantage. So let's get into a couple of other guys that I wanted to buy. James Conner is one of them. James Conner, let me just hide current comment here. James Conner, he had RB1 type of work in this game, RB1 type of usage. It was a really, really bad game by the Cardinals offense, right? It was just a shit show. But 72% snap share for the game. And then, but he had 90% snap share in the first half. And the game kind of got out of hand right in the fourth quarter. And that's when, Benjamin started coming and, taking some work away. But he's going to get plenty of goal line opportunities this year. He ran a route on 68% of Kyler Murray's dropbacks, which we talked about with Aaron Jones being that elite level. James Conner is doing that again. Remember last year, he averaged 5 catches per game without Chase Edmonds. It's looking like something like that's going to continue this year. So he finished as a high-end RB2 this week, but this is RB1 type of usage. So I would take advantage. And some people might think creep in into his workload a little bit, but it really happened later in the game. So I'm buying James Conner and treating him like an RB1.
Now, I'm with you on that 100%. And it goes back to, this was just a terrible game, like you said, by the Cardinals offense. I don't expect them to be in this kind of situation every week at all. And, James Conner, I just keep envisioning, him getting delivered pretty much to the goal line and picking up 2 touchdowns, potentially every week if the offense is as advertised. Obviously, it's down a few playmakers. So I think that's also contributing to it. Rondo Moore comes back, that'll be good. And he's back to full health whenever he is. DeAndre Hopkins will be back. Kyler Murray was throwing to Greg Dortch. This isn't going to be a one. They're not going to be throwing all the time. The offense was undermanned going up against Patrick Mahomes, and the defense didn't do him any favors either. Game script was just completely against James Conner, and he still managed to finish as a high-end RB2. So I was encouraged by that. He got 6 looks in the passing game. He caught 5 of them. He wasn't very efficient with it, but it was just an off day for the Cardinals offense. I'm buying James Conner, especially because people might be panicking on him. I don't know if they're panicking, but they might be like, okay, this is kind of, middle of the pack production that I thought I was getting a real steal in the 3rd round, maybe sell him while his price is still high. I'd be a buyer for him.
Yeah. And Josh is asking a very important question. Are you worried about Conner staying healthy for the full season? I'm not worried about it, but this is the risk that you take with James Conner. There's no doubt about it. You can't sugarcoat it. You can't, there has been times in the past where like we've had serious issues with Conner staying healthy for the full season, especially with a bigger workload. Okay. So that is the risk that you are taking with James Conner. But for me personally, the usage is great. He's looking good. Last year, he didn't miss a ton of games, right? He was okay. So yeah, I'm taking the shot on James Conner still.
Yeah, if I'm trading for a player, I'm not really, worrying about them getting injured. There's got to be something more that's attracting me to trading for them. Then it's not going to prevent me from trading for them if there's a potential they'll get injured. Every player can get injured. If I'm trading for somebody, I'm shooting for the upside.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, I want to talk about Antonio Gibson, man. He a lot of people are looking at Antonio Gibson, what he did this past week, as encouraging, moving forward.
Yeah.
However, I would look to sell him. His role didn't change. It's just that they were in a solid game script. Okay. In the type of situations that JD McKissic comes in on, 3rd and longs, 2-minute offense, that sort of thing, they didn't have that in this game. They didn't have those situations for him to come through, right? So that is why I want to sell Gibson right now. So yes, Dylan, I do want to trade Gibson high. This is a theme that's continuing on from last year as well. Remember, Brian Robinson is also going to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. And Brian Robinson is going to share the load on early downs. Okay. They didn't forget about him. They knew what they had in Antonio Gibson. They knew that he's very talented. However, they do want Brian Robinson involved. And at the very least, this is going to be a timeshare on early downs, and JD McKissic's role is not going to change. He's going to continue to be the 2-minute offense guy. He's going to continue to be the 3rd down guy. And if they go down a negative game script, neither of these guys are going to be on the field that much. Listen, this week, I think they're going up against the Lions, right? So it's a good matchup. But instead of me saying all right, you know what, I'll trade him after the Lions game because he's going to have a good game. He might not. Okay, Lions can go up in that game. There is no guarantee that Gibson is going to do as good as he did in this game. He had 8 targets in this game, right? Mm-hmm. But he got that on early downs. Okay. And they ran a lot of plays. They ran a lot of pass plays in this game, but I don't think that it's going to be consistent. I don't think it's going to continue. Just like, this game was exactly what you want in week 1 for Antonio Gibson. So you can trade him away and potentially upgrade. So what I would do, I wouldn't necessarily trade Gibson 1 for 1, but I would take Gibson, maybe grab one of your wide receivers, right? Maybe you're one of your wide receiver 3s or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, an Elijah Moore or somebody solid, somebody good.
Yeah.
And then upgrade your RB2 spot. Or I'm assuming that's where he's starting for you. But I would upgrade that or upgrade your flex package deal 2 for 1 and just upgrade that way. And that way, whoever you're trading to, they're looking like, oh, I got some good value here, right? And upgrade. I'd love to do these 2 for 1s.
Yeah. So what do you think? I just put this mock trade together in my head right now. So you're talking about packaging, maybe a guy like Elijah Moore with Antonio Gibson and going after someone to upgrade your RB2. Would you be targeting like an Aaron Jones?
I do that.
You think that could work?
Here's the thing, right? I would not assume what could work and what couldn't. I'm going to try to shoot for the moon. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is a disrespectful offer. I'll say that, right? If I got that offer, I'm not thinking are you kidding me? No, I'm not doing that. I'm saying okay, I see what you're doing here. For me personally, I'll decline. But for a lot of people who are panicking on Aaron Jones, yeah, I'd make that move. Listen, Elijah Moore has a huge ceiling, right? But this is a situation where you're trying to capitalize and upgrade, right? And if you can kind of get something that's a sure thing, I would do something like that. There's a lot of different combinations that you can make. And just a little bit of advice for trades. Look at the other team. Look at what they need, right? Don't just send random trades to people, because at the end of the day, how is this trade benefiting them? It's I get these questions all the time, guys. Okay. And it's hey, who do you think I should trade? I want to trade this guy away. Who do you think I should trade for? It's I don't know. I would look around you, if you're trying to trade a running back, I would look around your league and see who needs running backs, right? And then work from there, because you need to give value to the other team so that they can give you what you want, right? It doesn't work the other way around, where you're just hey, this is a player I don't want. I'm going to try to give them to you, even though you don't need that player. Right. It has to work 2 ways. And I think a lot of people are savvy with that type of way of trading, but don't just throw trades into the ethos and expect them to work. It has to work both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, if you really like a player, it's okay to overpay. There's nothing wrong with overpaying at all. I do it all the time. Sometimes you got to send an overwhelming offer for you to get the guy that you want.
Mm-hmm. And that's not always a bad thing, because then, some of the guys that you send over might have value to begin with, and then they end up, falling off maybe, and you still get the guy that you want. He's still doing well. That would work out pretty well. There's everything. This is just kind of my spiel on, overpaying. It's an overpay at the time the trade happens, Afterwards, it might not
Yeah.
be an overpay. It depends on how things play out. And that's why I agree. It's okay to overpay for guys that you want, because if you see something going the way that you want it to and you end up winning that trade, then good thing you did it. You might have seemed crazy to begin with. People might, smoke you for it a little bit when you actually do the trade. But if it works out in your favor, that's just good play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Now, I want to talk about Miles Sanders too. He had a solid fantasy day, right? His usage was okay. How are you looking at Miles Sanders? Obviously he got the touchdown. He got the first nod, at that goal line touchdown in this game, and a couple other running backs did as well. But later on in the game, how are you looking at Sanders? Are you looking at him as somebody you want to keep, somebody you want to sell? What are your thoughts?
I would sell, and that's just because we did talk about how he got the first crack at the end zone in the running game, but then it got turned over to Boston Scott. Then it got turned over to Kenneth Gainwell, and then it got turned over. Jalen Hurts is going to be having rushing touchdowns, that kind of thing. There's so many different guys in the Eagles' backfield, including the quarterback, that are going to be running the ball for touchdowns. That kind of thing, running the ball in general, and just the workload that he got was not the workload that we saw that we want to see for Miles Sanders. It was great. It was actually super refreshing. As someone, I don't hate Miles Sanders, even as a Cowboys fan, it's nice seeing him actually score a touchdown. It's nice seeing him do well because we know he's talented, but it's just the situation has been working against him, and that's the way it's been his whole career. I would take advantage of his value being up right now after a quality performance that we haven't seen in a while for Miles Sanders. I would sell him high, because I don't think that we're going to be seeing that type of performance every week. He might have one or two performances like this later on as the season goes on, but there's just going to be so much turnover and volatility in the backfield that I'm not comfortable keeping him and saying like, okay, I'll be able to start this guy every week and he'll turn in good points. So that's my thought.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, he was only on the field for 50% of snaps. He had a good game, right? And he's an efficient running back as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah.
But he's just sharing the load with other guys. He told you not to draft him too, and that's the reason, right?
Right.
And listen, I think you might be able to get some good value back. If you're in need of an RB2 and Sanders is like your flex or something, or your RB2, I would try to package up Sanders with another player to sweeten the deal, legit player, and try to trade up with him. So, if you have Sanders and Gibson, and it seems like you had a bad draft if you did, I would package those two guys up and just grab a running back, trade 2 for 1. I think the thing with Sanders is like he's going to have his games, but there is a likely, we saw Kenny Gainwell too on the field a lot, and this team is moving towards a pass heavy type of mindset, and Kenny Gainwell could potentially be on the field a lot more than we think. Boston Scott is going to be involved, and Boston Scott, he might get some goal line looks as well. So I'm with you, man. I'm trying to trade away Sanders while the perception on him is high.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at a couple of guys that we want to buy. Chase Edmonds is a guy that I'm looking to buy. I would trade straight up, Sanders for Edmonds. I would trade Gibson for Sanders as well in a full PPR league only. And that's because I don't think Gibson I think he has more upside than Edmonds on a weekly basis right now. But when Brian Robinson comes back, it's a little bit risky. So if you want consistent play from your RB2 in PPR leagues, I'd rather have Edmonds, but there's no doubt that in terms of volatility, Gibson's ceiling is way higher than Edmonds on a weekly basis. So depending on what you're looking for.
Right.
But it's not going to cost much to get Edmonds. And honestly, you might be able to get a little bit back if you're trading someone like Gibson to get Edmonds. I think he's going to be a solid PPR running back to the rest of the way. 63% of snaps. He ran a route on a very solid 57% of dropbacks. He's sharing the backfield with only Raheem Mostert. Okay, nobody else. Like we initially thought this might be a 3-man backfield. They got rid of Sony Michel. There's no other running backs that are, involved in this. We thought another running back might appear into the rotation. No, it's just those two guys. And also we might see goal line carries from Chase Edmonds. We talked about this before the season started. Like, hey, can this happen? Now that Sony Michel is not on the team anymore. And it seems like it can, because there were 4 there were 4 short yardage snaps in this past game. There was no goal line snaps, so we didn't get any sample size from that. But there were 4 short yardage snaps, and Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds each had 2. So the fact that Chase Edmonds is the starter, is the primary running back, there is a chance that when they get to the goal line that he's on the field. And if that happens, then you're looking at a much more valuable running back, somebody who is going to be very involved in the pass game, somebody who's a primary guy on early downs and a goal line back. That is a Austin Eckler light role. The offense can be good, not as good as the Chargers, but it's a good role to have, especially in full PPR.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you watch actually the Dolphins game, and it's nice seeing Chase Edmonds getting a full complement, full workload that, we didn't see in Arizona. His receiving work is what is the most appealing to me. Obviously, he got, 12 carries or something like that in the game. That's all right. And what's funny to me too is that you kind of called this a while ago. This is exactly the workload that you're talking about. And you're saying that if you sprinkle in those goal line touches, he could be a really valuable running back. He's kind of trending that way. Obviously, the game for the Dolphins, there's a lot more work going to receivers this game. There wasn't too much going on in the backfield, but Chase Edmonds was clearly the guy that they wanted to have on the field in most situations. Raheem Mostert doesn't scare me. He got 5 carries or something like that. He might have had a catch. I don't know. But, Alec Ingold, not anyone to be afraid of. Chase Edmonds, if they're going to be doing anything on the ground or out of the backfield, it's going to be Chase Edmonds. And that is super, super encouraging, especially for the price that you got him at. This guy, like you said, easy RB2 every week right now. You could start him and be pretty confident. And then, like you said, if he gets that goal line roll, he could have a couple, RB1 weeks pop up.
If he has the RB1 role, then he becomes a lot more valuable in half PPR and standard formats. Right now, I'm only comfortable starting him in full PPR because of the fact that I'm not sure if he's getting that goal line role, but if we know that he is, he becomes a lot more popular, a lot more valuable in every format, which would be awesome. So he outtouched. He had 16 opportunities to Mostert's 6, and he had 4 targets, which was 3rd on the team, 1 behind Waddle, and Tyreek Hill had 12. So solid day from him, and the utilization is looking pretty strong moving forward. So one tight end that I wanted to highlight was Pat Freiermuth. He had a 27% target share in this game, 77% route participation, which is awesome, and he had 100% of the end zone targets. If you're looking for a cheap tight end to potentially buy, listen, he's going to be on a bad offense, but it looks like that he's going to be very, very involved. It's not going to take much to get him. If you're trying to stream and to decide between guys like Cole Kmet and all these back end or high end tight end ones, you might be able to get Freiermuth, and he can potentially finish as the tight end 5, tight end 6 this year. And I would do it now before he starts to become consistent. That's just a quick one that I had.
Right. I agree.
Kyle Pitts, you might be able to. I've seen some serious trades in my DM inbox, texting me in the comments about trades that are happening between guys, and dude, you got to be kidding me, right? Some of these trades that are going down for Kyle Pitts is crazy. Kyle Pitts is going to be fine. Okay. 22% target share, 33% air yard share. Okay, he's going to be just fine in that offense. I'm not worried about Marcus Mariota. Like we always have talked about, Marcus Mariota has got it done for tight ends in the past, specifically Delaney Walker. I'm not worried about it, okay? He's going to be great. He could potentially still finish as a top 2 tight end. Not worried.
Yeah, just a week 1 overreaction that people are having. I agree. I've seen a bunch of trades, and I'm actually actively participating in those trades, trying to get people, catch people panicking, and try to get Kyle Pitts at a discount if I don't already have him. I don't know. One of the offers I put together, I put out Dallas Goedert, who, he had a good week. Dallas Goedert and I forget who else I added, another receiver or something like that, just to see if people would want to bite on that. I wouldn't advise against you maybe just trying to do that. If you have Kyle Pitts owner who's kind of, on the edge of their seat a bit and wondering if they should trade out of Kyle Pitts because it's looking like it was last year, if you have a decent tight end and obviously lower caliber than Kyle Pitts, I would consider trying to pack it up and buy.
100%. If I had Dalton Schultz, I'm buying Kyle Pitts. If I had Dallas Goedert, I'm buying Kyle Pitts. If I had Zach Ertz, well, it's hard to sell Zach Ertz right now, but yeah, I would be buying Kyle Pitts regardless. So yeah, if I had Pat Freiermuth, I'm buying him. We got a trade question here. Would you trade Michael Carter for Rashad Bateman?
So to receive Rashad Bateman?
Yes.
Let's see. So if I have Michael Carter and I could trade for Rashad Bateman, I would. I think so. Rashad Bateman's the clear number one on the Ravens on the Ravens offense.
Yeah.
And Michael Carter's a guy that we're projecting to, kind of lose some of his role to Breece Hall in the future. I think that one's pretty easy. I'd do Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, Mark Andrews, he ran around on 91% of dropbacks. Rashad Bateman only ran around on 74%, which is not great for a wide receiver, especially wide receiver one. I'm hoping that goes up, and I'm expecting it does. But Devin Duvernay only ran around on 53% of dropbacks, and obviously he had the big game. But that's why I wasn't so interested in Devin Duvernay on waivers, because of that reason. He's only running about on half of Lamar's dropbacks, and we already know this is going to be a run-heavy offense. So wasn't so interested there. Bateman's going to be the guy. So continue to buy Bateman. I think that is a good buy, especially for Michael Carter, somebody we are expecting whose role should diminish as the season goes on. And I think Breece Hall will start to take over that backfield.
Yeah.
Got you, King Cars. No problem, man. A couple other guys I wanted to mention. I think Trey Lance, listen, he didn't look amazing in week one. Okay. There's no doubt about it. But one thing that we really wanted to see is how much is Kyle Shanahan going to call design runs for Trey Lance. He had the highest design rush rate in the entire league in week one. That is great. He is destined to finish as a top 10 quarterback this year. Okay. Didn't have a great start. However, I would start him this week. Hopefully the weather's better than it was in Chicago. He doesn't have Kittle yet. He might not have him again, but he's going to have Debo. He has Ayuk. He has a good offensive line. He's going to be fine. And the fact that Elijah Mitchell is going to be out, they might be depending on him even more moving forward in the run game. And near the goal line, who do you think is going to be the guy? It's going to be him. So don't panic with him. If I've seen people crazy, pick him up, start him. That's how I look at it. That's how I'm looking at it with him.
Yeah, if you're not panicking about Justin Fields, you should be panicking about Trey Lance, because they were both playing in the same game in the same slop. If Trey Lance had a passing touchdown, I think we'd be having, or any type of touchdown, I think we'd be having a much different conversation. We wouldn't be thinking about it. You can't use his first week as a measuring stick, just like you said, like I've said about Justin Fields. The same goes for Trey Lance. Don't panic. Just keep him. See him play in regular weather. I guarantee you the results will be much better. Just hold on. That's all you have to do.
I'm with you. A couple of higher end wide receivers that I would try and buy after bad weeks. Number one is DJ Moore. DJ Moore, 23% target share, still solid. 32% air yard share, very solid. He had a tough matchup. Denzel Ward was on him a bunch of that game. Robbie Anderson obviously was able to do his thing. So, and Baker had no problem targeting him downfield, and he also was targeting DJ Moore downfield. It just didn't really come to fruition. But he still had 32% of the air yards. Robbie Anderson ended up with more than 50% of the air yards in this past week. I don't expect the differential to be that much every single week. So I do think Robbie's going to be involved. However, DJ Moore is the wide receiver one there, and I would buy him now if you're worried. If anybody who has him is worried about his usage in week one.
Yeah, definitely. I actually kind of said about DJ Moore a little while ago. I forget. It was I think it was just our rankings. You had him ranked a little bit lower than I thought. And this, performance in week one would kind of justify having him ranked a little bit lower than where I said he should be. I think I should have him ranked like 13 or 14. But Baker Mayfield, he's a good quarterback for fantasy. He can support two receivers. Robbie Anderson just happened to get, the deep bomb touchdown. Take away that touchdown, and suddenly DJ Moore looks like, obviously the wide receiver one. Nobody should be panicking with DJ Moore yet. Like you said, 23% target share, 32% air yard share. I think that has a chance to actually go up, because it wasn't an explosive fantasy day. The game script was very neutral for both teams. They were both in it. If the Panthers start to trail, DJ Moore is going to be, he's going to pick up the slack there and start getting some more targets. I think that DJ Moore, goodbye.
Another guy, Marquise Brown as well. Marquise Brown is somebody that I would definitely buy right now. 30. So what was his 45% air yard share in this game? And, they obviously didn't connect, but it's going to happen. The offense was in a really bad spot this past week. I would continue to buy Marquise Brown. It was easy for the Chiefs. The Chiefs only had one guy to really key in on, right? And the fact that they were keying in on him led Kyler Murray to be targeting Greg Dortch the entire game, more than 10 targets. So don't worry about Hollywood. I would continue to buy him. When Hopkins is back, he's going to continue to do well because these guys are going to be taking coverage away from each other. So buy him. Zach Ertz also wasn't playing a full game. So there wasn't that many guys to throw to. Buy Hollywood while you can.
Definitely.
Let's see. Anybody else that I had? Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. These guys didn't have big games. Dalvin Cook especially had a ridiculous type of opportunity. He ran a route on, let me see, I think it was 80%. Something crazy. He ran a route on 79% of dropbacks, which is unbelievable for a running back. It's exactly what you want to see. 77% of snaps, 23 total opportunities, didn't score. So you might have a little bit of an opportunity here. If I have Dalvin, I'm not selling him. I doubt anybody would, but just kick the tires, see what happens. Alvin Kamara, a little people panicking about him a little bit. His usage wasn't amazing in week 1. However, he did have a rib injury apparently, and that wasn't really widely reported. He did end up playing only 62% of snaps, ran a route on less than 50% of dropbacks, which isn't ideal for him. He still saw 13 opportunities. I think that all of that should go up. I think he's fine off of that rib injury now. So if you're looking to potentially buy somebody cheap, a guy that some people might be worried about, I think Alvin Kamara is somebody that you could target as like a low end RB1.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We obviously, I don't think we got to hear about that rib injury until after, the fact, after the game started, that kind of thing. Nobody really saw that coming. So you can't really hold that against him. But, we know what Alvin Kamara is. He can catch the ball. He got four, what was it? 4 targets, 3 catches. He only had like 4 yards or something like that, or 7 yards, something like that. It wasn't much at all. That efficiency will come back once he's actually healthy. So I'm not worried about Alvin Kamara yet. Like we said, it's week 1. It's not that big a deal right now. The other thing, we're not going to have Taysom Hill gadget drives every drive. Back like right towards the earlier part of the game where it was actually a contest and that the Saints weren't in the negative game script that they were for most of the game. They ran like 4 straight plays with Taysom Hill. And he ended up with like 80 yards and a touchdown. Like move some of that work over to Alvin Kamara, and I guarantee you will have not only better results for the team, but also better results for fantasy. Don't worry about it. When Taysom Hill isn't getting that workload, it's going to be going to Alvin Kamara.
I got a lot of Taysom Hill questions. Like, hey man, like should I start my tight end? Like, you can, but like he was only on the field for 26% of snaps in that game. He just had that like couple big plays and that was it. So not really trying to get Taysom Hill on my team, even with tight end eligibility.
Yeah, Taysom Hill his job is just to make Alvin Kamara owners crazy. That's it. That's all he does.
A couple guys you might want to buy high, if you can. Saquon Barkley. If anybody thinks that, like, obviously whoever drafted Saquon was probably a believer in Saquon, right? Because you don't really draft him unless you're a believer. Yeah. However, I'm treating him like a high-end running back 1 right now. So if anyone is if you overwhelm a Saquon manager, do it. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Leonard Fournette. He looked really good in that game, and the fact that he was an every down back, dude. Like all of the reports about him not being an every down back is like, it's just not true. 76% of snaps, 76% of routes that he was running a route for. Like, I'm sorry, of dropbacks that he was running a route for Tom Brady. We know what that's going to end up like. And he's their goal line guy too. The offense is going to get better. He's going to have a crazy, and the fact that he didn't have a touchdown in this game. So, there is a chance that you can buy him high right now. You're not buying him low because he didn't, people know who Leonard Fournette is, but I would still kick the tires and try to get him. If I'm trying to do like a 2-for-1 upgrade, for like Aaron Jones, I would definitely do that same deal. Try that same deal with the Leonard Fournette manager as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned Saquon and Fournette. If you don't feel like coughing up, probably the high capital, high assets that you're going to need to get Saquon, and you can target Fournette, I think, as a slightly cheaper but same type of situation, deal. Because Fournette, we saw what his workload was. It was exactly what we wanted it to be as fantasy managers. That's what you're looking for. We know Fournette has the receiving upside, and once he scores touchdowns, he's going to start going ballistic. If you don't want to cough up the high capital for Saquon, go shoot just a little lower for Fournette, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, on that one. The last guy I want to talk about is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm looking to sell him. He scored 2 touchdowns in this game, I think. I'm pretty sure. And 39% of snaps. It would have been a little bit higher if the Chiefs, if it was a closer game, because Pacheco did come in the game, but he came in late in the game. He wasn't really involved a whole lot earlier. So, I would say maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire would have hit like maybe 50% of snaps instead of 39. He was also he was only on running a route on 37% of dropbacks, and McKinnon is still the primary passing down guy. If CH were to ever get hurt, I think Jerick McKinnon would be the one to potentially take advantage of a bigger role. Pacheco can as well, but for now, McKinnon is the better roster add, I would say. 11 opportunities for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jerick McKinnon had 8. Pacheco had 12, but considering the fact that the game was over when he got most of his touches, it doesn't really weigh in a whole lot for me. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if anyone's buying, I'm selling.
Yeah, and this was a huge game for the Chiefs offense, and I'm not expecting everybody to be fantasy contributors like they were every week, even though this is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are a very good team. But I'm looking for the every week fantasy contributors to be along the lines of Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Patrick Mahomes, and those being the 3 main guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't think he's going to have too many games quite like this where even when Isaiah Pacheco's getting like 12 carries and Jerick McKinnon's getting good volume, for him to still score 22 points, I don't see that happening every week. Have 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns and only 22 points. That's relatively touchdown dependent. And I'm not a big fan of that. Sell him high. I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, last one. This is the real last one. Najee Harris.
Yeah.
What are we doing with Najee Harris? Apparently, he's good to go. He's going to play this week or try to play this week. Listen, I would not. If I had Najee Harris right now, I'm doing everything I can to sell. I already wasn't a huge fan of his upside coming into the year. The offense didn't look great. He didn't look great behind that offensive line. Just overall, it wasn't a great, situation for him. He already had the Lisfranc injury in the preseason. He came back, he played on it, and he might have tweaked it a little bit. That's not good. What if he tweaks it again?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And now he's out for the season or something. Right. That's not good, man. And from what I'm reading, like a bad tweak of that Lisfranc, of that foot injury can mean the entire season potentially. So this week I'm going to start him. Okay. Like I'll start him as maybe not as like the RB1 that you drafted him as, but maybe as an RB2, solid RB2 this week, who's going to get a relatively large workload. Maybe, who knows? Like maybe now they
he
play
might be on
him.
Account. Yeah.
But now, you start to bring in other guys, right? And like Najee Harris might not be that dude. So it's a little bit risky with Najee right now. And I'll be looking to sell. If you have to put a little bit of a package together with him, because a lot of people are going to be hesitant. Now, when I put up the story about Najee Harris playing, I got a lot of replies in my DM saying like, yeah, I knew it. He's fine. So like there's a lot of confidence out there from a lot of people. So like I would take advantage of those people who think that everything's fine. And maybe everything is fine. But the point is that you want to try to get like some compensation back here that like if Najee does end up being fine, that you'll be fine too, because you got some good pieces back.
Yeah. And I think that he's kind of treading thin ice, especially dealing with the Lisfranc, like you said. Any bad tweak to that would be just horrific for his value. If you could sell, I would. And we also have to mention, and what I saw, he was still inefficient, even with the volume that he did get. He had the 1 touchdown that kind of salvaged his day. If he didn't get that touchdown, I think that we'd be having a very different conversation. We'd be like, what's wrong with Najee Harris? Obviously he got injured and, I don't think he finished the day. But, yeah, there's a lot of volatility volatility suddenly around his name, where I was preaching, he's the safest asset, safest running back that you can get over the offseason. But the Steelers offense is not that good. Even with the volume that Harris was getting, he was inefficient. Now he's treading thin ice with an injury. That's not a very rosy picture to kind of try and sell to somebody. But if you can get somebody who's like
don't use that as a sales pitch.
Yeah. Don't do your sales pitches. Yeah, he might be out for the season if he does anything with his injury that he might have tweaked. Don't use that as a sales pitch. But it's not a very rosy picture. But if you can kind of salvage that before things go south, take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I want to just piggyback off what you said about him being safe. I do think so. Let's say he had this type of game, but he did not have a foot injury. I would be looking to buy Najee Harris because he had a crappy game, but we know that the crazy amount of volume and the opportunity is going to be there for Najee. It didn't work out in this game, and honestly, he had a couple games like this one last year, but he ended up being just fine in PPR leagues, high floor type of player. And he ended up finishing as RB1, RB7 or RB8 in points, fantasy points per game in PPR. So he was fine. And I would have been looking to buy him if he didn't have a foot injury, but he had the same type of stat line. But the foot injury is what is really, really, really making me worried here.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And that's what I wasn't banking on. He was fully healthy all last season. And, you can't bank on an injury happening or not happening.
Right.
But I didn't anticipate this week 1. And that kind of has me on edge.
I hear you. I think that's it, man. That'll do it. We kept this under an hour. Nice job.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any more questions, we'll try to get to your questions over on Instagram. You can obviously hit up the Patreon as well. You'll get a guaranteed answer there with the highest tier in that package. Just you can text me your fantasy questions and stuff. So hit me up, and I'll see you guys over on Instagram. And yeah, that's it. Me and Zach. That'll do it for this show. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone in the chat, and Gonzalo, appreciate your question about Najee. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much. Everyone watching live, thanks for coming through. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. See ya.